give me a whitetail hunter. If he's going right now to buy his arrows, it's a little late, but give me a setup to start with for a whitetail hunter, FOC and weight of the arrow going in the woods.
550 grains.
Okay.
Perfect flight, cut on contact.
No, life's good. It's been crazy, hectic. So I'm glad we got to jump on and do this. It's been going good. We're just trying to, grow our YouTube channel and do a podcast. I like doing the podcast stuff.
Yeah, right.
I've been lucky enough to interview some really good people so far. So it's been really, really good to sit down and talk.
Great.
I really want
to just put your head down and keep going, man. Don't stop. One more day, right? One more day on it.
I know.
It's I was never, we can talk about that when we get rolling, but I never expected anything to occur. I just expected to have 2,000 subscribers, put my crazy stuff out there. And then it went, but basically when I got to know the hunting public and a couple other big channels and just being on their stuff, right? This cross-pollination stuff is really good for everybody.
Yeah. I've noticed that, and as a consumer as well, I was brought on your stuff by the hunting public, like just as a general consumer, and everything I'm doing on the consuming side, I try to think why did I do that? Okay. So then I think back to myself, okay, what can I do with the consumer?
That's right.
Think, because why did I click on that? What was the title? What was the thumbnail? What did I do here? What's something they're doing that's really working? And all that. But it's been neat to see. Your stuff is funny because the hunting public has had, you guys have done I think it was like a week or so camp, and the arrow stuff is something I never thought about as a kid. And we can, we just go right into it. But until, a year or 2 years ago.
Hey, are you recording? Because people want to hear this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I record.
Oh, you're recording.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. It automatically records it. I
didn't pay attention. I don't pay attention. So if we're recording, that's good. Fantastic. So the arrow stuff, just to let you know, I'm going to cut in and then I'll let you keep going. I get 1,000 messages a month between May and October. Oh yeah. And it's with back and forth. Okay. Probably 500 new users, new people, or 400 probably, and then back and forth. And it's all arrows. And sharpening. Nobody says, I saw you shoot that pig. Woo! And I've done a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that. The whole arrow thing, to your point, is a completely not discussed part. There's a whole lot of bow stuff and a whole lot of camouflage and looking cool. But the arrow thing is not discussed.
Not at all. And that's why it's so intriguing to sit and listen. And I read the comments, right? I read all comments just to see how consumers are handling certain pieces of content and what they're thinking.
Yep.
And I watch I look at your guys' comments, and there will always, I think, be in the hunting industry that this group that says, just go hunt, just stop.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But they're taking time out to watch the video to tell you to just keep hunting. So I think that's interesting. But the point is I think there'll always be those guys. And I've talked to people lately, and all the stuff that you guys come out with, I'm like, hey, I'm on the phone. Hey, we got to really think about this, and this. And I'll send them, and there's a couple that's fine. But I've really, it's opened my eyes for two reasons, not just watching your stuff, but going out and trying it and seeing.
Yeah, right. Well, you got to try. So there's a lot of people I get shot at by people who've never tried.
Yeah, exactly. Majority of people.
That's how I got there. Listen, I went to Africa and shot the Rage. I killed 2 animals with the Rage. I shot the rest of them with Magnus Stingers, but I was shooting 425 grain arrows. I didn't know any better. That was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? I hadn't been back. And my evolution is 100% just like everybody else. I took a couple of steps and said, God, I put a 125 grain broadhead and 100 grain insert. Man, that arrow's slow. I went through all this. It's not like I just jumped off and started shooting 700.
Yeah.
It was a couple of steps at a time. And I've been saying this on podcasts. I'm saying it in my videos more. 2 steps. The biggest step would be, could you please go play with your arrows? If you don't believe me, in January, go buy a couple of different spines and get, some field points and just go see. $50, $70 investment. Go find some place that'll sell you singles of whatever you're shooting and get a couple of extra field points and get them anywhere. And just go play.
Yeah,
you're going to spend the money anyway.
Yeah.
So the Aeroflight thing is, is really the biggest thing and sharp broadheads. It's completely undiscussed. There isn't anybody I know of. I'm kind of tooting my own horn here, but I'm a weird amalgamation of things. I went to respiratory therapy school. I had cadavers. We studied pulmonary damage and how to keep people alive with problems. Okay. And here I am, the number one guy on archery talking about lethality. It just fell into God just decided you didn't need to do that because I'm not a respiratory therapist. I'm a sales guy. Yeah. And I was never going to be. I literally walked out of school and just said, I'm not doing this. But it has benefited me. I'm in the medical side of the world of sales. So trust me, it's fine. But it would take somebody with kind of a weird brain like mine to say, wow, I know enough to be dangerous as to how the broadheads kill stuff. And so it's been a weird of evolution. I wanted to be a product reviewer. Yeah. And it was a disaster. I'm terrible at it. I don't give a crap that it's 2 3/4 inches and 5 broadheads are off by 2 grains. It just isn't who I am. There's some great people who do that. And every little meticulous thing, we need those people. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying I'm terrible at it. Yeah. So I went where I was strong.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, is what you said there is, just figuring out, what you have to love it. Like I can see how, I think everyone can see you love figuring this stuff out. And
I love the puzzle. Yeah.
Okay. So I went really small. I'll just kind of tell you my progression there of figuring what you guys are saying, how true it is. And there's some things that are hard, and I get for some people, because for me, it was like, I believe them, but I don't know. I've seen this, right? But I think overall, I was like, I put some weight in my arrows because I think every person starts, they get the arrows, they get those generic inserts. I don't even know if they're 10 grains, right? Those generic inserts put in your arrows.
Just heavier. Yep.
Yeah. And you go and you start shooting as a young kid or a teenager or whatever, you're growing up. And we never talked about weight ever. And maybe I was in the wrong group of people. We just never came across.
We never discussed it. I didn't discuss it for 20 years. I shot a bow for 20 years and never talked about it.
We just hunted. Some deer we killed, some we didn't, some didn't penetrate, some didn't. It was just, we just thought, that was our luck, right?
That's bow hunting.
Yeah, it's bow hunting. I hit something. Yeah. And so recently I actually had a friend that's part of Voyage. He's the one who kind of pushed me into you need this, this, and this, go follow, watch this. And so I put a bunch of weight on my arrows last year and this year. And it's just, I'd say there's even a difference shooting at a target. I know we talk a lot about pass-throughs and that's your bigger thing. I want that arrow to pass through that animal. But there's a difference.
Absolutely you do.
At a target with a little bit heavier arrow than the generic setup. I mean, just basic stuff. And so it went down that road. I think I'm still light on my arrows, just based on listening to you guys. I'm close to 500. I think I'm right there at 500. FOC, maybe, I think it's 15.7 maybe. But
that's a real good solid basic start. I mean, so you've taken a few steps, right? That's good.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And that's
600 is the next wow factor arrow on meat. So I need to cut something off here real quick for the listeners out there. I don't think like anyone in the bow hunting industry. The more I've learned about the math and hanging out with the Rocket Man, who was an aerodynamics engineer and shot stuff going Mach 5, which is 5 times the speed of sound. That's fast. And a lot of them look just like an arrow. They're very heavy, long projectiles for penetrating tanks. So they look just like an arrow in flight. They have a point on them. They're very long rod made out of uranium or something super heavy, and they have fins. They look just like a freaking arrow. And the more I do this, the more I'm only concerned with lethality. I don't care about the rest of it. And lethality starts at impact. And when you start to think about what's going to happen when the arrow hits the animal, and then you back everything up the other direction. It's a completely different mindset. One of the things Barnett has said, the Rocket Man, is in their DoD budget, they spent 80% of their budget on the armor they were trying to penetrate and studying the armor. 80%. They didn't shoot a lot of things. They needed to know the densities, how it was going to react. They had stuff to push on it, bang on it, try to figure it out. And then they said, okay, now we need projectile X probably, and we'll figure out how to launch it. So when your head starts to flip and you say, I want maximum lethality in all hits. I want the highest percentage chance of getting the arrow to go through them, shoulder blade, humerus, whatever. When that's your mindset, and then you back up to, and you say, I don't care about, I'm going to learn how to shoot the bow. You're forever changed. But it's the 99% of the industry is, let's launch something. It's gonna penetrate.
They really preach, let's launch it as fast as we possibly can right now. That's
part of it. They think that helps downrange, and it doesn't. But it doesn't help the energy or anything downrange, and that's fine. The bullet guys study downrange energy a lot with their delivered projectiles, right? And we don't do that. I've studied it out to 60 yards, and in every case, the higher mass projectiles carry more energy at 60 yards than anything.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So I had a question for you right off the bat.
Shoot.
Because I remember you saying it starts when the arrow hits the animal working back. Okay. That kinetic foot pounds that it hits, right? And you guys measured that in one of the videos. It was crazy how much more, even the heavier arrows, they hit harder, right? Is it the importance when that broadhead's touching first, right? Hitting the animal first. Is that broadhead something that maybe supersedes, or is it the kinetic pounds hitting that animal that's more important of it working backwards? Is it you with the foot pounds and then, okay, now we're working on the broadhead, sharp broadhead, and then we're working, okay, the weight, is that how we're working back? The foot pounds first, then we're working the broadhead, and then or how does that work? I mean, what do you think?
So we're looking for this is another thing that's missed greatly. The durability of the point of the projectile is a huge thing nobody talks about. So you need, really, I start now, and this has just been a shift over the last 2 or 3 years. You really got to have something that's not going to fold up or give at all. If it bends or breaks or dulls, it doesn't matter how many foot pounds you're putting on target, because the broadhead's now dull, it's bent, broken, that kind of thing. For instance, I shot muzzies for years in the old days, but the blades were always chewed up. And I killed a lot of stuff with them, pigs and deer and antelope and all kind of stuff. And they worked. And I didn't even think about it. I was just like, well, they get chewed up. Broadheads that I'm shooting now, I shoot them through stuff. They skip off the ground. I go pick them up and the blades look fine. One of them may be dull as hell because it hit the ground. But then you start to see that and you go, a couple of the long blood trails I had, a couple of the bonks or didn't find them kind of things I had, maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. And that's the lethality thing. So the broadhead itself cannot fail at impact. So the energy thing goes out the window if the broadhead fails. And then the second thing to that is perfect arrow flight. Let me grab Big Jake.
Yep, I want to see that.
Big Jake has a broken point. I don't know what I did. This is my giant arrow that Barnett, he 3D printed me this Ashby broadhead so I can do presentations with bunches of people. I did a presentation at ATA with like 150 people this year. And so this is helpful.
Yeah.
So if the broadhead remains intact, but the arrow's like this at impact, when it hits, it's going to go like that. It's not going to continue just because the broadhead's going this way. If the tail's over here, it's going to touch. You got a long stick, and all the leverage is going to go to the side, the weak side, and it's going to go like this, and it's going to kill your penetration. So it's really a combination. The Ashby factors, the 12 factors in Dr. Ed's list, is an algorithm. And the more of them you can put into your arrow system, the better you're going to be in the most situations. If you hit a spot that big in the Vital V every single time, everything works. I'm not going to deny that. I never will. But man, I'm not that good. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos. People send me clips and stuff, and people aren't that good either. And the animals are not trying to die. They move.
Yeah. Especially to hear some and we've all seen that flight, especially in target shooting, where that back end.
Oh yeah. They don't care. Targets, they don't care. They're scoring points. They don't give a crap what it looks like air flight.
Yeah. And so just practicing, I've seen that. Okay. What would be off initial cause? I'm shooting 4 arrows of the exact same arrow I bought, insert all that. One's moving like that. What is the cause of that arrow turning like that back in like that on that big?
Most likely it's grip pressure or your arrows are not tuned consistently. Yeah. So have you rotated the Nox any on
them? A little bit, but I haven't spine tuned. And I wanted to dive in that today because I don't understand it. I've watched a bunch of videos. My mind just
that's fine. That's good. I'm glad. I'm here to help you.
I can't get my mind around. I just need to understand it better. But yeah, so a little bit of not. Yes.
So all arrows, 95% of carbon arrows have a spine in them. They're actually wrapped around this direction. They're not protruded like monofilament fishing lines, a big goo of rubber plastic, and they have a diameter hole for 8-pound test, and they shoot it through there, and it's a continuous thread. And people think carbon arrows are also made that way. They are not. They are made and they are layered, and there's a spot where that layer is, and it's a stiffer spot on the arrow. Okay. Now, a lot of people say, hey, do I always want stiff up? No, you want stiff where your bow shoots it, and you can't find it. You can actually find it. I've done this making custom fishing rods. You bend the shaft like this and roll it, and it'll go boom. It'll thump over. Yeah. And that's what the spine is. But by rotating the knock end, so I have a mark here. We'll just put it like that. Let's pretend we know that this is the stiff. Okay.
Okay.
Put it in that position. Okay. Knocks in a shooting position and shoot it. It's a little bit wonky. Rotate it. And you've just moved the stiff side somewhere else. It seems rather arbitrary. It is not. Your bow is just a launcher. It is stupid. You pull it back and you turn it loose. It doesn't know anything else to do. So if you have 3 arrows shooting okay, and one's always kind of weird, that's why I say number all your arrows.
Yeah.
If one of them just kind of weird, like every once in a while it shoots okay, and then every once in a while it's always 2 inches off.
Yeah.
That one, pull it out, shoot it, and rotate it. Fletchings, if you're fletched, you can't have them hitting the cables.
Yep.
You can't have them hit the side of the bow. If you got a real narrow riser, something got to look down here and make sure, because if it hits the cables, it's right at the release and it'll bonk it. But you're just changing that's the way the arrow's going to bend. So if the stiff is up, it's going to bend one way. You put it here, it's going to bend another way. It's going to bend another way. It's going to bend another way.
Okay.
And that will make it more consistent. And you're customizing the ammo to the launcher.
And so when you guys did knock tuning and you put the paper up, you were just watching how it hit the target through the paper, and then you were turning the knock, shooting again until you found center. And then do you mark it with a little marker and you can get it?
Yep. You just take your Sharpie, just like this one is. All my arrows are marked like that. And then whatever position that is, I always shoot that up.
Okay.
So even in the dark, when I'm hunting pigs in the dark testing, I can see it and put the knock tune on. And then even if you get a lighted knock, okay, and you put a lighted knock in, you just put it in the same position, and you're good.
And you're good to go. Yeah.
And what the goal of this is, the knock tuning thing makes every one of the arrows consistent. So the most common thing to do, and this is just because shops don't have 900 hours to mess with you. This is on everyone out there. You need to grow up and do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll take your bow, they'll take one arrow. Let's say they're tuning the bow. Let's say they're bending it and all that stuff, which is completely practical. And let's say you got a little left tear and the guy twists the cams up and makes it shoot straight. That one arrow is tuned. The other 12 are not. You need to check every one of them.
Yep.
And if they're not, you know that one of them does it, start turning the knocks.
That's a good point. I think that's helpful. I think a lot of people don't, and it's helpful in this combo. They hand it off to their archery shop. They want it tuned, and they want to pick it back up, and everything be good. So I think it's helpful.
It's okay. It's some people. It's just time and all that, right? It's life
yeah.
gets in the way. You have kids and stuff. You
it.
should shoot it. You should not let them do it.
I agree.
You should be shooting it.
And that's why I want to make a point to the people that just do that. I don't want to tell them you have to stop doing that. I just want people to have an understanding of like what it takes to tune every arrow. That you're going to have to put some work in and shoot all arrows and get all that stuff tuned up. So
if you want the best projectile you can make, it's just, like I said, I didn't know this stuff 5 or 6 years ago. Big Mike Tanaka is the one who introduced me to knock tuning and really getting the arrows really dialed in. Literally put the inserts in. I use JB Weld slow. I use the old stuff, so it cures over 24 hours, and I can spin the insert, put it in a spinner, put in a straight point. I usually use like a machine 3-blade broadhead or something that's real straight. Put it in a spinner, keep spinning the insert, and when it's straight, I mark it. Unscrew the broadhead in case when you're unscrewing it, it slips. You can put those lines back together, set it up, and you got overnight to go for sure before you shoot them.
Yeah,
but that's why I use the real slow pure JB Weld, so I can do insert tuning. And then I hate getting a dozen arrows. I can't go back anymore. I can't just go shoot a box of factory arrows and pull them out of the box. I know now. I know too much. And I'll shoot 3 of them and go, oh, I saw it. You just see it go flick. It's hard to see. And then if that one that flickers a little bit, when you put this device on the front, it's dragging in the air. And so when it flicks, let's say it's this broadhead, it's pushing against the air, and it starts trying to correct like this. And this is why you get these loops, and these people say broadheads don't fly straight. It's because the shaft's not launching the same.
Yeah.
So you got one broadhead takes off this direction, and you got one broadhead takes off that direction, and one takes off like that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Field points are liars. They're super aerodynamic.
Yeah, they are. And that's why, some people get, I think, caught up sometimes in the rage. Shooting a rage. Rage is really thin down. But, we talk about broadheads. I want to talk about that because I always tell everybody I was the first person to ever buy a rage. Because I remember walking in and they were putting them on the shelf at Bass Pro in Springfield. And I bought the first pack of 3-blade. I thought it was first pack 3-blade. First thing they came out with. So I grew up on that. And, and I think the biggest thing you talk about having a good broadhead is the ones that get damaged after one shot. I mean, that gets expensive. That's not just a problem shooting an arrow.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Breaks and it's all, you invest in, and then they're like, hey, the other ones are expensive. These nice ones, the ones you shoot, well, they're over $100 for a pack. Well, I'm like, you're not shooting it once and then never using it again. And that's what we do.
That's correct.
And that's what's really nice. So you definitely transitioned me out of the rage phase of shooting detail. It's just, I nothing against their broadheads. I think when it comes to mechanical, they're maybe the best, but I just want something that's not going to bend. I've seen them bend. I've seen them chipped like they were shot through a pile of rock. I've seen some crazy.
The weirdest thing we can't figure out is a lot of them come, the blades are curved like that, like they hit and they bite or something, but they're perfectly curved. I haven't figured that one out yet. That 3-blade rage, when you hit them right, makes a hell of a hole. I can confirm. Yeah, they are devastating when they work. It's unbelievable.
I know. 2-blade, 2-inch rages, like, you want to talk about a dream scenario. If I could shoot a deer that didn't have any bones in it, I'd shoot a rage. It cuts a 2-inch hole through it. If it opens, if it has to open too, it has to hit the right angle. And it leaves a crazy blood. I mean, I could never believe that. So, but I just don't want to get in a scenario that I don't have the sample size as maybe the hunting public of shooting deer, but I don't want to get to that scenario where they're like, see this scenario that happened, see what happened there. I think Aaron's buck is what made me want to switch to a fixed blade. He shot a buck, as you know, and in the shoulder there.
I did a whole video on it.
Yeah. And it popped. It looked like he didn't have no leg, but I just don't think a mechanical is going to do that and kill that deer.
No, it's going to stop. So let's clarify on that one. So I've got a video on my channel about Aaron's. He shot a great big 10-point. It's a big deer, horn wise, and it's a big Iowa,
Yeah.
Midwest. We don't have deer like that. This deer is a freaking horse.
Yep.
And he had an 11 factor arrow. So he had everything Ashby, except he didn't have tapered arrow, which tapered arrows are hard to find. So I'm a big fan of 11 factors, but he was at 650 grains.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was shooting a 2-blade, and he's a sharpening freak. He loves to sharpen broadheads. So that thing was sharp, one piece, machined head, and he had the ultimate mistake happen. He hit the thing. The ball of the humerus is the size of the end of this flashlight. It's a tiny target. He missed a foot square of deer where he'd have shot through it and the arrow would have gone in the leg behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Just because things happen, man. He was 15 yards. It wasn't like he was shooting 50.
Mm-hmm.
It was right on top of him, right?
Yeah.
And he made a little bit, and he cut the humerus ball in half, and the arrow penetrated the other shoulder blade, and the deer went 65 yards.
Yeah.
There isn't another broadhead system that probably would have made it through that humerus ball, because the single bevels do rotate and helps to pop the bone, and popping the bone clears the shaft. So every broadhead platform outside of a single bevel stops rotating on impact. It has to force its way through stuff. So if he would have been shooting a double bevel, I don't know that he would have broken the bone. There was a chance because his mass was up. I know he's an arrow flight dork. He really likes doing that stuff. And a lot of the things that we preach, he does all that stuff. But he had a single bevel machined head on there. And that's a big deer. It wasn't a 4-pointer, a doe.
I know. Right? It was a big deer. And
that's the deer you want.
Yeah, and that's you would have lost that situation if anything else happened. Yeah, no, I just think it's interesting to talk about. I think it's neat. I love what you guys are doing. I just think bringing it up and getting it out there and let people decide what they think about it. Of course, you guys are just putting the information out there because no one is. I just think it's really good information, and I've seen the progress. Now, I have an analogy for you, and I've been wanting to tell you this, and I want to see what you thought. So when people come to me, all right, and they say, why are we doing this? Why am I putting more weight in the front of my arrow? Even when they ask that, why am I doing all this stuff to my arrow? Why am I putting more weight? Why do I want 600? That's going to, drop all that. Mm-hmm. I have an analogy and I think it's good. I don't know. All right. So I always say, when you go on the side of a river, right? And you're throwing rocks. All right. And you're skipping them, whatever, but you're throwing rocks and you see them splash. Right? You take a little rock, medium-sized rock, and a big rock, a big one. And you can throw that little one pretty far and pretty fast, and you see it make a splash. That medium one, you can really get on that one too. Maybe not as far, but it makes it a little bit bigger splash. And I'm like, then you get this big one, and it is a little heavy, right? And you may not be able to throw it as far, right? And on the straight line. But how much splash does that make when it hits the wall? That's
your analogy is downrange energy.
Yeah.
It's a really good one, actually, because water is semi-infinite and very hard, actually. It's hard to move out of the way because it's a heavy substance.
Yeah.
That analogy is great, that the big splash comes from the mass. If you threw a light flat rock out there, it wouldn't make, or a lighter big rock. Yeah. It wouldn't make as big a splash as something that just dropped it like a cannonball.
Exactly. If it was hollowed out in the center, it wouldn't do nothing. It would just probably pop like a jug of empty water. You throw a jug with big mass, but and then the analogy I use, I thought of these one day and I started telling, because people ask me all the time, why? And I'm like, then the other one they asked, why the front of the weight, And I said, that's pretty simple. I said, you have a water bottle, empty one, and you throw it, it's like, it goes nowhere. I said, then you put a little bit of water in it. And just a little, about 2 inches of water in a water bottle in front of centers when they're asking me this. And I said, throw it. The water goes to the front and guides that water bottle. And I was like, the reason why that water, it's swishing around in there, and you chuck it, and as soon as you throw it, it's in the front. It's all compressed in the front of the water bottle, pulling it to the distance it goes. And so that's how I explain front of center to them. And so I had to tell you those. I didn't know what you thought, but I had to tell you.
No, those are good analogies. It's also, if you've ever thrown a paper airplane, you put a paperclip on the front, which is heavy as hell compared to a paper airplane.
Yeah.
They seem to fly a lot better.
I've never done that. That's good.
But that's aerodynamic stability.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why forward to center is so important, is an aerodynamic fact that a high forward to center helps this long stick be stable.
Yeah.
Because the point's pulling the shaft. That's a very rough analogy, but the point is pulling the shaft. And if it's stable in the air, it's stable on the impact. That's, again, we're going back to the impact. If it's stable in the air, it will be stable on impact. And the more stable it is when it hits something at a quartering angle, a little wonky, the deer's stuck in, the more it's going to want to continue to go on its flight path, as opposed to be redirected and have your light rock have the water redirected, right?
Now, all this stuff that you guys are doing, I see Rocket Man is what you got. What is his name again? So I don't.
Daryl Barnett.
Daryl Barnett. I hate to call him by Rocket Man, but
he loves it.
You guys, well, all right, I don't feel as bad. How did you guys meet? And maybe this, I sent another.
He came to, we were doing a 12 factors presentation to Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
And Texas Parks and Wildlife has actually adopted the 12 factors as the guidepost for recommendations for arrow systems hunting in Texas. It's not required. Mm-hmm. It's just heavily recommended, to the point that there's an insert actually in the bow hunter manual for here's the 12 factors. And he showed up. He contacted Rob, the president of the foundation, back when I was a board member. I'm not a board member of the foundation anymore because of I got too busy with YouTube and stuff, and I just didn't have time in my job. So Daryl just came to the presentation and then started talking to us, and we had a hamburger. And he lives in Austin, where I live. And he and I just became buddies. And he's been a gold mine. I mean, he's really made a dumb guy smart. Hanging out with him is amazing, and I've learned so much from him. And it's real static, scientific.
Yeah.
You can argue because you want to argue it, but you can't argue it at the scientific math physics level. It's not arguable, and it's super well researched. Tank penetrators, wall penetrators. Stuff, missiles they launch 200 miles and it has something small, right? All this stuff is heavily researched in the military community. Flying sticks going fast is heavily researched. Ironically, most of them are very heavy as well because they have to, they got to penetrate.
Yeah.
If you bounce one off of your enemy's tank, he knows which direction you shot at him. He'll just swivel around and blast back at you.
Yeah.
It's bad for your health. If you just guessed whatever would penetrate a tank and just started shooting it at somebody, they're going to shoot back.
Yeah.
So it's a different mindset in the military to say, okay, we prefer not to die.
Yeah.
Was it Churchill said, the goal of war is not to die for your country, but make the other son of a bitch die for his?
Yeah.
It was him or Eisenhower, one of the two.
I've heard
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they think completely differently than we do.
Yeah.
It has to penetrate. We'll figure out how to deliver it.
Yeah, and I like listening to him talk. He just makes it. He's so smart that it comes out really like educated, but he makes it simple. I like to listen to it. It makes it simple for me, even though he's talking in these terms of like, well, this, and this. I'm like, that makes sense to me. Like, it really does. So I enjoy him on your guys' content. I really do. I just want to tell you that because I wanted to know how you met.
No, he's great, and he's just scratching the surface. We're still on the edge of the baked potato.
Yeah.
There's so much crap he tells me, and I go, we can't explain that. I mean, there's no way for anyone to understand that, Daryl. They got to sit with you and want to. You'd have to want to understand it. I sit around reading the physics hyper textbook on aerodynamic drag. I'm a dork. I mean, I read some crazy stuff that the military's put out and a lot of the drag equations and try to figure out what it is and chew on it. Sometimes I read it and I have no idea what, and then all of a sudden 2 days later I go, oh, I see. Now, and I go back and read it and go, okay, I understand 2 more steps, right? I don't understand the whole body of work that may be 20 pages long, but I understand 10% more.
I think it's great that you guys are
10% more.
Yeah, I think what's great is you guys are taking what you're learning. You can read that book and you're breaking that down and he's helping. But you're taking that little arrow that you 3D printed and making it make sense to us. That maybe some of us are taking that arrow and you're explaining something. It makes 10 times more sense to me that if I sat down and read, maybe if you wrote a big article explaining the same thing that you said in a speech,
Right.
I wouldn't get what you wrote. But you would.
Well, it's funny how you get there. So it's all kind of brains out there. I get people who email me all the time and say, do you have a Word document that I can just read step by step? And I'm like, I just did a video on this. Yeah. But everybody learns different, right? I need to do that. Sure. We need to write a book.
I think just overall, I'm glad you got to do this, because I think just discussing the arrows and getting people, hold on, something popped up on my screen. There we go. Just getting the knowledge out there, because I think it's actually a bigger deal than what most general, like the hunting industry, is treating it. I think we just don't really talk about it. So I
don't know that anybody's thought about it. I think I honestly think as I get older, I was more pissed off last couple of years ago about this, that people just don't do this. And then I'm starting to realize people don't do this. And you go, oh, they literally don't have a clue. Some of the top guys on TV and stuff have no freaking idea about this stuff. They don't. Yeah. They have no idea. They may not care. I mean, you get to a certain success level and you're big enough, you probably don't care, but they don't know. I am convinced, however, that the top shooters in the world who shoot spots, I'm convinced they do know, and they didn't want anybody to know. Because if you've got some edge you haven't told anybody, that you're doing different.
Yeah.
In other words, I see a lot of comments by some of the top shooters and some people who are pretty good spot shooters and self-proposed geniuses at shooting. And there are people who are in the bell curve of humanity who are on the crazy good side. I got that. Super consistent, able to do things over and over, which I am not.
Yeah,
I know that about myself. It's fine. I'm not good at shooting 20. I shot the triggers out of a shotgun, out of my over and under. I shot the trigger sears out of it. I shot it so much. I had to have the gun rebuilt. I never shot a perfect round of skeet in my life. You do not want to shoot for money against me shooting doves where it's variable. Mm-hmm. I promise you do not want to do that. But on skeet, you can beat me because I get bored.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm convinced that the guys who say, no, it's your form, your shot cycle, all this stuff, there's a certain subset of humans who can do that and process that under stress.
I agree.
But I'm also convinced that they're not shooting random ammo. I don't think the best spot shooter in the world could walk into a shop, grab a set of arrows off the rack, never mess with them, and shoot them as good as he shoots his own stuff. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Because the machine, sometimes you're going to make a little mistake. And if you have a really consistent machine, it'll make up for that.
Yeah.
I may be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't believe it. I know it is because I shot spine. I had one of the companies sent me shafts that were spine aligned.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means they're all consistent out of the box. Spine alignment is a good thing. It doesn't mean the spine's aligned correctly for you. It just means they all match. Okay. So if one tears left, it's probably all of them are going to tear left.
Okay.
And that's actually okay. But it's when they tear left, right, and upside down. But I shot the spine aligned shafts and they didn't all noctunes for me on the spine alignment. It was about 60%. So that's better than 0 or better than 20. Mm-hmm. But they did not noctune for me all on the spine alignment. And I was hoping it would, because it'd be a shortcut. If that worked, I'm for it, because it helps the millions of bow hunters take that next step, but it's an easier step. It didn't work for me. It didn't. And I shot there were probably 24 that I ran through. So it wasn't 100, but I cut the fletchings off. They came in fletched, and I cut the fletchings off and shot them. And they spine lined about 60% air shaft perfect for me. And I said, okay, well, that didn't fix anything. Yeah, and I don't know what the variability, I don't know enough about the aero building piece, the engineering. I don't know why. So I'm not bashing the spine alignment. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying, that doesn't work at all. It's a stupid idea. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they didn't bear shaft for me, 24 on the spine alignment, 100%. So, but I got them to shoot 100% bear shaft by rotating the nocks. but I don't know enough about the variability and the carbon and how that works to know why. I don't know why. I just know what I got.
Yeah, I think it just means like, regardless if you think you're getting, spine, everything's set up for you from the factory, you still need to test them, still need to get out there and set them up. And
people need to stop shooting for practice and shoot their arrows and make them consistent. I'm very serious about that. I mean, all these reps, I see people putting in the reps. And every time I see that, I'm thinking, are your arrows consistent? Because you can put in your reps, but number 6, 8, and 11 are not shooting with the set, and you're never going to outshoot them.
Yeah.
You're not going to outform a bad launch.
I agree. I had the trouble.
I know that now.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years ago, I'd have been a rep guy. Got to practice. Got to keep shooting. Got to keep your form solid. Got to be stable. God, it's like golf. Get your left arm straight. Keep your head down. All these thoughts, and you chunk it 10 feet. I play golf better when I just walk up and hit the stupid thing and chase it around. And that's kind of a bad analogy, but we all know about the classic golf gizmos. You got the sticks on the ground, you got the thing on your hat, you got the eyepiece, all that, and you're still hacking it. And that's what I think that the solution. And unfortunately, it's preached amongst the best guys in the world, and they are arrogant asses because they are the best in the world. And I'm calling. I just said it, and it's fine. They can bash me or whatever. You're the best shooters in the world. You are not the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to blow your own horn and continue to say, I'm great, I agree with you. You're the best spot shooters or the best 3D guys. Correct, you are. You're not helping anyone by telling them that they have to be you, because they're not you.
Yeah.
They're not.
And on that side, I don't think I've seen, maybe there are, do they do any arrow breakdowns like the top archers in the world?
They wouldn't tell you that. Are you kidding me?
That's what I was, wondering if anybody does that. Anybody in the top realm does arrow breakdowns or stuff like that.
They talk about how to do the builds and how to tune the bows and all this other stuff. But I'm still convinced that, first of all, they have this mind that's really good and consistent. They're those guys I shot with in skeet that were just machines. And I never was. I was always like, could we try shoot off the top of our head now off of number 6? Because that would be fun. I'm that guy. Like, I'm jacking around with a 410, shooting it one-handed or something.
Yeah.
But these guys are like machines, like accounting minds or whatever. And they're the best at it. They're really good at continuous shooting spots. Oh my God. 5 shots. I'm like, okay, like, can we bounce it off the ground or shoot it off a wall, or let's make it more interesting. We're going to continue. It's like running. I don't like running. Because after about the first half mile, I said, we're going to keep running. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
This is boring. Soccer, I'll run all day, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing something.
Yeah.
But those guys, I don't think they'll tell. They all have secrets that they're not telling people. Listen, there's only 10 of them at the top that make any money. And the top 2 make a lot of money. If they know something, they already got the skill set to be able to pound and pound and pound and pound and repetitively be a machine. They got great form. I got that. But whatever their tuning techniques are, I'm not convinced they're telling everything. And I wouldn't either. You think you want to lose a number 1 spot? Make a great living, right? To get to hunt all over the world. They go to shows, they travel around, people pay their bills and take them places and stuff. I wouldn't tell anybody. I would keep that train rolling if it was me, but I'm not. I'm not that good at that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know how I would do in that scenario, but I just think it's interesting that you guys are talking about it. Now, walk me through what you hunt year to year. I think everyone kind of knows maybe, but just walk me through your kind of hunting career, what you've hunted. We talked, you said you kind of get in love with certain things, and right now you're especially fishing right now, but walk me through things you've hunted and some things you've loved to hunt that you would go back and do again.
I'm kind of pissed at the elk. I've been 5 times. I've drawn a Gila tag, which is a super premium New Mexico tag, and got zipped there. I have not shot at an elk. They are frustrating for me, so I want to get that done. When I was younger, I had the freaking, I was a madman. I've killed black buck antelope, feral sheep, tons of pigs, lots of javelinas. I don't know how many gazillion deer. I went to Africa and shot kudu, black wildebeest, les buck, jackals. Shooting baboons with a rifle is really fun. And then my kids came along and I stopped hunting. I killed 155-inch deer on low fence in Texas, no genetics and all that crap. And I literally haven't shot a deer since then. Now I've been in on about 150 of them with kids and nephews. I've got a gun. I've got a 223 break open single shot with a little Nikon on top, and it has 38 names written on the stock.
Really?
Of people who killed their first animal with that gun.
That's a cool tradition that you do, putting their names on there.
So yeah, I haven't deer hunted, and now that I'm into the science side of this thing, the pigs are testing. Like I get people like, anybody can shoot a pig in a feeder. That guy's an idiot. I'm like, God, you completely missed about 90% of what I'm doing, which is setting up deer hunting shots in high volume because they're very reliable, right? They're very reliable at the feeders. I can get shots between 15 to 25 yards and then test different arrow platforms. And people say, well, it's the worst hunting channel ever. Yeah, no, I'm not hunting. It's testing. And there's no laws on the pigs. You shoot them with RPG flamethrowers. Nobody cares. So I leverage that to do testing.
Yeah. Is there a limit on pigs?
No.
You can kill in a year?
Oh, no. You just get the helicopter up and go shoot all of them. Helicopter in them is really fun, by the way. It's really, if you've seen the helicopter videos, it's way more fun than it looks. Oh, my God, that's fun.
It looks fun. It looks like
it is a hoot.
Yeah.
But I typically shoot a bunch of pigs every year doing my testing stuff, and I'm just not pissed at many animals anymore. I'm getting old. I love fishing, and I'm about to go on a tear. The fall, everybody else is talking about going hunting. I'm like, when the cold fronts hit, I'm thinking, going to the coast. I mean, the surf fishing gets ridiculous between now and December, right after every cold front. I mean, literally, my wife knows. She sees a front coming. She's like, all right, well, the boy's going to be gone for 2 days. So I got Nora. She started going with me. Now the kids are out of the house. She starts going with me.
That's cool.
Generally here it's pretty muggy and hot, even in the winter. But when those fronts go through, we'll go down there on the beach and it'll be 75, no humidity, super comfortable, and the fishing's off the charts. And then I set a goal about 4 years ago to catch a 10-pound bass, and I caught that fish in May. Really? I didn't catch him off a bed like a freaking chicken turd. I don't like bed fishing. I think it's cheating. But I caught her in a small lake here. I just started researching little lakes around here. I have a little floating boat that's electric motor and no big power, and just started researching lakes that had the right stuff, a lot of grass, and all these lakes have a lot of pressure, but they have a lot of grass, they have a lot of good habitat, and I finally got that done. And that was really cool. I don't get too excited about much when I pulled that fish out of the water. I was on the border of shaking.
That's a once in a lifetime fish. It's pretty cool. I mean, you live in one of the greatest states, I think, for bass fishing. I know I have friends that just travel down there year in and year out to fish. And it's a great state. So I get it. 10-pound bass, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I caught it in May. I figured I would catch one in the spring, not bed fishing, but she'd be right. You know what I mean? She'd be garden fry or something like that. And I wouldn't know. I will not flip in a bed. I don't like it. But I figured I would catch one fishing deeper. Maybe the bed's there, but I'm not going to pull up and annoy one to death. Just not how I like to do it. It's fine. But that was a cool experience. I mean, I was by myself. There was a bunch of people around the lake. And I've learned how to do this stuff. You don't war whoop. You don't make a lot of noise. And you just kind of flip the big ones into the bottom. So when you fish over 6 pounds I catch, hardly does anyone know. I put her in the bottom of the boat and I looked at her and I said, oh, wow. I thought she was about 8.5. And I hung her and she hit 10.5 and I went, oh my God. And I took a very quick, terrible photograph, because another thing about big fish is a lot of people jack with them a lot because it's a once in a lifetime deal. So they're out of the water. They're not thinking. They're rubbing all the slime off. They're dragging them on the bottom of the boat. They're holding them up 15 times, whooping and shit. You're going to kill the thing.
It will. I've seen it.
She was out of the water for 30 seconds. I literally took a picture like this and I put her in the water. I hung her. I took a picture and I put her back. I was not killing her. What great genetics.
Yeah, that's awesome too. That's pretty awesome. Now, so you're gonna do a lot more fishing, you said. Elk hunting. When are you gonna get back in the elk woods?
I'm probably going to go to Wyoming in 2 years. So I got an outfitter up there I want to go with. I'm going to draw. I've got a bunch of points in Colorado. I've got 8 points, I think, in Colorado right now. And I'm going to actually draw a rifle tag and try to draw one of those really premium Colorado deer units and shoot a deer with a rifle out there, a big mule deer. I got a friend who's a mule deer machine out there. He's really good. And we tried to draw. He knows all about the draw stuff is a pain in the neck, but he's a super dork. I'm a dork on arrows, and I build his arrows for him and tell him what to do, and he does the dork thing for me for Western crap. So
I think when you get to 12,
I'm going to get a rifle, and we're going to go like 3rd season. And he's already told me where we're going, what unit. He's been there, which is helpful. And he said, he said a 170 should be relatively easy. Like we should get one, with not a lot of work, he said, but if we want to get over 180, we're going to have to hunt. And I'd probably shoot a 170-inch mule deer. I'm not that, I'm not that pissed off, but I'll probably video the whole thing. It'll be fun.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. So, I think regardless, just getting out there and immediately it'll be fun. We went out to Colorado last year for the first time, so we're just tiptoeing into it. But it's fun.
Did y'all go elk hunting?
Yeah, we went elk hunting. Should have bought a couple muley tags. Now that we look back, it's like
right.
It's like they were not the brightest animals out there in the mountains. I had one I walked up on, and I mean, but yeah. So looking back, I could have shot one, and had a friend who could have shot one. But yeah, we went elk hunting. I drew back on an elk. That was cool.
Yep.
First day ever elk hunting, drew back, and so that was a cool experience. I know it's going to be tough, so we're going to try to go back again.
Most of the elk guys I talk to, and this is my advice for deer hunters too. If you've never shot a deer, shoot the first legal deer that comes out. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Get them on the ground. Like get through the whole shooting thing. And everybody I've talked to said, I've told them what I've done. And they said, you need to shoot an elk. I've had cows and stuff close, and I just never tried to go get them. Right. Yeah. And everybody's telling me now, you need to just kill a damn elk. Like kill an elk and then go for the bull. If you get a bull in front of you, go after him. I got that. But they're like, if you get a bunch of cows in front of you and you think you can cut them off and have one step on you at 15 yards, shoot it. And I'm like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And I'm also, one of my weaknesses, Western hunting, is I'm not aggressive enough. I'm a private guy. I've always hunted private land. I don't know about this public stuff my whole life. So you can always go back. Like if you didn't get a deer, you're like, we're hunting old Sutherfoot with the old broke ear. We'll eventually get him. We got 7 more weeks of deer season.
Yeah.
When you're elk hunting, you need to shoot a damn elk. Like go.
I'm glad we got to talk today. I appreciate it. I guess lastly I'll end with kind of your channel and and you guys are talking about arrows and all that. What are some goals that you kind of want to do with the channel and places you want to kind of dive deeper into in arrows, and what's some things you're looking at right now or thinking about, or do you think about the future of the channel?
No, I'm planning the future. So funny thing about it, I'm an educator. So if you haven't listened to me by now, this time of year, there's no reason for me to make videos.
Yep.
So you'll see, I've got them spaced out till December, but I'll slow way down on content because there's no reason for you to read about arrows and sharpening in August or September. It's over. You've already bought your stuff. I learned that a couple of years ago. So I'll crank back up in the springtime. And me and the Barnett got tons of science stuff coming with momentum and KE and delivered on target and downrange and a bunch of, deep dive stuff to help everyone become more lethal. We want to deliver as much energy. Remember, we're only shooting an 80 foot-pound kinetic energy machine. It's not 2,000 like a gun. You got extra error margin for error with a gun because it's so much more wallop. And you're shooting this really slow projectile. I mean, even the fast ones aren't that high kinetic energy. It's not like you get 200 foot-pounds of kinetic energy out of any of it. And help people take the next 2 steps. That's what I'm gonna do next year. And I'm gonna back it up with science. And we're gonna do a better job. Barnett did a great job on the Hunting Public video about the foam targets that we just did. some guys did some study on a foam target showing consistent penetration, and that's a fact. So because the target sucks the kinetic energy out of the arrows.
Silk tone too. Yeah.
But he backed it up with, he showed books and he quoted people and said, you can look this guy up. He's the #1 penetration engineer in the world for high speed projectiles in the military. You can look him up. He's the guy that they quote in the book. So you write a book about this stuff and you say, back that up. Right. Yeah. And that we're going to do more of that, because I'd love for people to go figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to throw some brick walls up there. You can't climb or break down. You can't go around them. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
The biggest one that we've discovered in the last, Barnett knew this, but I didn't understand it, was how much more energy is delivered on target as the arrow goes down range by a heavier mass projectile.
Yes.
It's like 40% more.
Mm-hmm.
You're only dealing with 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So 40% more is still 40% more. And people are going to say, well, you're going to have a range estimation deal, right? Because theoretically, this is not always true on a curve, but theoretically, the fast arrows got shorter flight time to target, and theoretically has a more drops less. So your range estimation would be less. Remember what I said in the beginning of the podcast. I'm completely different than all of you.
Yeah.
I am concerned if it will penetrate. We'll learn how to deliver it on target. If you want to back up and say, well, range estimation errors are lower. Okay, good. Is it going to penetrate?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard for me now that I've shifted my mentality. It blows my mind that people are not thinking. They're saying, I can make a range estimation error. It's going to be better, and it's going to penetrate. Yeah. That last statement is wrong.
Yeah.
Unless you have 100% perfect shot placement every time. And I'll give you that. I'll give on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that target becomes very small if you can't break the humerus and you can't break a shoulder blade at 60. You've got to take that part of the critter out of it. You get this target, you get this faster projectile, you get your light rock thrown in the river, to use your analogy, and it hits the target at 60. It's lost 40% more energy at 60 yards than a heavier projectile. That means it's got 40% less stuff to move forward after impact. And I'm an impact guy now. I can't get past it. I'm wired so black and white. Once I realized, holy smokes, the whole goal of bow hunting is to get the arrow through the animal.
Through the animal, yeah.
What arrow will go through the animal in the highest percentage of impact points? That's the question you should be asking. Yeah. And then learn to deliver it or shorten up your range.
Yeah.
I'm a 40-yard guy. I think bow hunting should be 40 yards.
Well, that's the point. That's the point where I struggle with the people I see that say all the things you said they say. They're not. No one's willing to shorten their range ever. And
nope.
And I am like I'm not the greatest shot in the world. Like I practice. I do all my thing. I twerk my hand real. I do a lot of bad things, right? But I don't try to make shots at the 60-50. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day, but I'm comfortable, 45 and in. Some people, some hunters are comfortable at 60. That's fine, but no one will shorten their range ever.
Well, the thing that gets me, and I'll finish on this, when you're watching YouTube or hunting videos, or actually when you're watching these videos that people post of some group of guys, the hunting public or the elk shape guys, whoever you're watching, I don't care. And they're shooting with their buddies and jacking around.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the elk shape guys, I put out a video that said, hey, you should practice this. You laser the target, back up 4 steps, and then guesstimate, because that's going to happen. You're going to laser and an animal's going to move, and you're going to have to learn. So learn the trajectory of your arrow over distance and learn to guesstimate, because it's a practical field application, right? They did a video on that. When you see videos like that with people shooting and they're shooting 60 or 80 yards, See how many arrows go in the kill zone.
Yeah.
Not hit the target. Sit back and be a little analytical and say, how many went in the kill zone on those videos, and when you're by yourself. And don't lie to yourself, and don't shoot 7 arrows and then say, hey, I'm good now, because you don't get 7 warm-up shots. You don't get to shoot at the elk twice most of the time.
No.
So you need to just say, cold shot, how many times do I hit the kill zone? And then if it's 60 yards, you're wild and you're shooting groups that big, and you're going to go shoot that far at an animal, you're being irresponsible. You're not that good, and you need to shorten up.
It's a long ways. It's a long ways to shoot an animal. I've seen some animals killed out to 60 and 70, but it wasn't quick.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't quick.
People do it every year. I got a guy who shot a 600 grain arrows, 102. And he killed a mule deer, and he hit it. I mean, it was right on the crease, lower 1/3. It was a bomb. He's like, yeah, the 600 grain arrows go 102 just fine. He had this big mule deer. I was like, I can't do that. I mean, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, to end it, we have a minute left. Give me a whitetail hunter. If he's going right now to buy his arrows, it's a little late, but give me a setup to start with for a whitetail hunter, FOC and weight of the arrow. Going in the woods.
550 grains.
Okay.
Perfect flight, cut on contact. So that's 100 grain insert, 125 grain point. And if you're an average size dude, pull an average 60 or 65 pounds. That's a 300 or 250 spine arrow. Perfect flight, cut on contact like a Magnus Stinger, something simple.